Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. The first one is titled, "Neighbor repeatedly trespassed on my property at night to deal drugs." I live in a pretty rural area along with my husband. We had just moved in right before the neighbors next to us moved out. The mother had seemed like a nice lady and even asked my husband to keep an eye out on the house while it was up for sale. We never did know why she moved out, but it seemed like the house was important to her nonetheless. Her son also lived with her before they moved out, and he always seemed a little off. Well, we found out he was even more off when we found him coming to this secluded spot behind our house every night to deal drugs. Let me explain. We live in a pretty quiet area, and behind our house is a water tank facility and land that is owned by housing developers. Nothing has been built on this property besides the water facility. At night this area is very dark, and unless someone or something is making noise, you would not even be able to tell someone was out there. Well, one night my wife heard some strange noises near the back of our house, sort of in between us and the old name's house. I went to go check, and it was some guy throwing away trash in the old neighbor's trash bin. I did not really think much of it at first. Like I said, we live in a pretty secluded area, and the area behind us with the water facility is pretty dark, so I would figure eventually some kids would come up here to party or something. But once we were able to get a good look at this someone, we realized that it was the son from next door. We also quickly realized that he was not partying or just visiting his mom's house, he was dealing drugs. His nightly visits turned into him coming behind our house multiple times a night, and each time he would be there for about 15 minutes. One night we discreetly looked out the window and saw what appeared to be a drug deal taking place. We called the police officers and they said they were going to send somebody out, but they never did. I understand that technically he was not on our property, but just the thought of him being there at night, making drug deals and God knows what else, made my husband and I uncomfortable. The police were not going to be much help. They did not have a good reputation in our town anyways, and we did not feel comfortable approaching this guy directly. It became noticeably clear that he was not mentally all there. We would hear him talking to himself at night, sometimes he would be punching the air or dancing, I was not really sure, and I was not trying to find out. We decided to wait a couple of days and purchase some no trespassing and private property signs. We did not want to be too direct with him, so we had hoped that by waiting a couple of days, this would not seem too aggressive. We posted the signs, but much to our dismay, he ignored them and continued visiting the spot behind our house every night, multiple times a night most nights. In one particular night we heard him pull up and park his car. Just a few moments later we heard a lot of noise and ruckus coming from him and his car. When we tried to listen, he was singing to himself and punching the air / playing air guitar. Which, hey, rock on man, but not while you are clearly high on something and behind my house. So we tried calling the police once more, and they had told us again that they were sending someone out to investigate. We figured they were not actually doing that because about 25 minutes had gone by and they still had not shown up. I was afraid that if they did show up, that the guy would be gone already and we would not have any proof. This made me think of installing security cameras. Well, just as the guy was about to leave, it seemed like he was waiting for his drug dealer or something, the police officers pulled up and busted him. We had finally come out of the house and faced him, feeling safe that the police officers were there if anything were to happen. They had handcuffed the man and began searching his car and found various drug paraphernalia and even a gun, which shocked us to the core. We figured something was not right with him, but we did not think he would have a weapon on him or anything. This made us even more glad that the police officers had caught him, although he had never done anything violent towards us or even acknowledged us. Who knows what he would have done with that gun in any particular situation. It also turns out that he had just recently gotten out of jail and was on parole. but because he was in possession of drug paraphernalia, he violated his parole. He ended up going back to jail, and while I truly hope he gets the help he needs, I was glad I did not have to worry about someone perching behind my house anymore. The next one is titled Swimming Pool Issues. Not mine but my dad's, rest in peace. Subplot: he passed away 4 years ago at the age of 64. Like his father, grandfather and great-grandfather, all down the paternal line, all firstborn sons. All different things. When I get to 64, I might start pooping bricks. Anyway, on to the malicious compliance. Many years ago, it became law that all swimming pools needed to be fenced separately. The fact that we lived in a fully fenced property with a gate was not enough. The swimming pool needed its own fence. And ripe stars, since we are Reddit veterans, we know that having a fence around your swimming pool is actually a very valid idea. Anyway, my dad ignored the rules as we did not really use the pool anymore, approximately 30 feet long and 10 feet wide and 6 feet deep in the shape of a kidney. I swam at nationals a couple times and my brother was able to bob along pretty well. We did not have young children come to the house, none of our friends had children, 0 point in fencing it. A couple of years after it became law, the council started doing inspections to make sure that pools were fenced. The guy was a typical council employee, strutting around in his fiefdom, flexing his muscles and threatening fines and court, etc. Dad got some quotes to have it fenced, which were pretty expensive as the hard paving surrounding the pool was curved, and the fence could not be a typical wooden fence as A, wood does not allow curved contours easily, and B, the council by law would not allow it as little kids who were non-existent at our house could climb the fence using the cross member to get a footing. So Dad kind of ignored the issue for a while until the council guy came back and again started threatening again and gave Dad 30 days or something like that to remedy the issue and sort out the swimming pool. Dad started researching and came up with a solution. The council guy came back 31 days later and was furious that the pool was not fenced. Dad took him out to the pool. The approximately 30 feet long and 10 feet wide and 6 feet deep in the shape of a kidney, he showed the council guy the dozen or so fish and water lilies that now occupied the pool, thus turning it into a fish pond. A pond that was the same size and depth as the swimming pool it used to be, which under the law did not and still does not need to be fenced. Game, set, match. I can see and in some ways agree that it was a bit irresponsible, but as mentioned, the property itself was fully fenced and electric gates at the top of the drive. No kids came to the house. I'm pretty sure if we did have visitors or it was still used as a swimming pool, when my brother and I had kids, fencing would have happened. And yeah, ripe stars, if you enjoy the crazy stories about all these awful neighbors, then please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments, and if you want to go the extra mile, I would really appreciate it if you could also like the video, because that would help my channel tremendously. Thank you so much in advance. The next one was posted by user Ancient Eyes and it is titled How to Silence Yelling Customers in Under 30 Seconds. Backstory: I used to work part-time for Toys R Us in their customer service area. I was witness to many screaming kids and entitled parents. If you ever want to go through hell, go work at the customer service aka returns area in retail. This story is not about one but many women trying to yell at me and how I made them feel like an entitled jerk in mere seconds. I won't ever argue with people, for me it's a waste of breath. I make my statement using logic and no one ever comes back with anything they can argue with. A couple of ex-girlfriends and even former roommates claimed I never fought fair because I left them no way to come back with anything without sounding stupid. On to the story. We had a couple of shopping carts that had infant seats attached so moms could put their infant children while they shopped. When it rained, people would take these carts out and leave them outside. Moms would come in immediately yelling about how we would not have dry ones for their babies. Management made a rule that when it rained, these carts were never allowed outside. Every time it rained, I would be yelled at every 15 to 30 minutes for the entire shift as women would leave and I stopped them. Here was the response I gave them. Ma'am, did you enjoy having a dry seat for your child when you walked into the store? Women would always say, yes, of course. My response, well, the reason you were able to enjoy that was because I stopped the last woman from leaving. Now I am only trying to stop you so the next woman will have a dry seat for their child as well. They will enjoy what you have just enjoyed. I will get someone to help you move all your stuff over to a new cart without a problem. At this point, no woman ever came back with any response other than, thank you. Sometimes you don't need to yell, just tell them the reason with a logic that they cannot even argue without sounding like a complete jerk or moron. The next one is titled, Big Karen Regrets. I live in a housing cooperative. I have no idea if there's something equivalent in other countries, but I live in Norway. It's essentially where you own your own apartment, but the cooperative owns the buildings and the land. If you're going to make changes to the building, you will have to apply for a permit, otherwise it is generally do as you please as long as you don't bother your neighbors. Anyways, I put up a small greenhouse on my private patio, as many others had done, but not this exact type. This was an aluminum construction, not a frame with a loose plastic cover kind. The building manager, who is best described as a triple Karen, threw a fit. She actually watched me spending 3 days assembling the greenhouse, and then the next day she called me and threw a fit. Not because I put up a greenhouse, but because I had used screws to fasten it to the patio for stability. Apparently, I was not allowed to use screws on the floorboards as this was considered changes to the building in her mind. And I had destroyed the floorboards. Never mind, the whole patio was built with, wait for it, screws through the floorboards. Screws in the wall were okay, she had told me, in response to me asking about why she had put up shelves on her patio herself. However, not the floorboards. Apparently the difference was monumental and everyone should just know this intuitively. Nowhere, literally nowhere, does it say fastening things to the floorboards or putting screws in the floorboards is not allowed, not in the house rules, my contract, or in the National Housing Cooperative's law. But she was furious that I had done this. I took a deep breath, and as I am quite creative, I immediately thought of a workaround. I will just put it on wheels then. I made a big number of saying that fastening was essential because otherwise the greenhouse would not be stable enough to withstand wind. She said she understood this, but I had now ruined the co-op's property. And this was a really serious matter. She told me to send an application for a permit to see if she could find a way to get approval from the board. But she could not guarantee I could keep it, she said, with the fakest of sympathies. And by the way guys, I just remembered, just to chime in, that we had a similar story not too long ago about an HOA that was also bothered by screws on the patio, if I remember correctly. However, in this case, obviously, it is not about an HOA because there are no HOAs like we know them in America. Anyway, so I sent the application with photos saying what I had done and that I did not think I had to apply to it, as I never considered putting in a prefabricated greenhouse would be seen as changes to building. My application was rejected as I anticipated, but she worded the rejection exactly as I hoped she would. I was not allowed to put in a fastened greenhouse, and she probably thought she had been clever when she included that I was not allowed to put the greenhouse on my front lawn either. I had worked the "it needs to be fastened to be stable" angle hard because I hoped she, as the Karen she is, would fall for that reverse psychology. So I proceeded to put the greenhouse on wheels. I made a frame from 2x4s and put 8 small furniture wheels under the frame. I then lifted and screwed the greenhouse onto the frame. I put some boards on the sides just above the ground to stop the draft. Boom, mobile greenhouse. I can slide it all over to the patio. I put some hooks in the walls and used transport straps to secure the whole thing to the wall for stability. The walls were okay to put screws in, remember, so in effect my greenhouse is now in the exact same location, 4 inches taller and with ugly blue ribbons tying it to the wall. And the patio now has 22 open screw holes ready to be filled with rainwater in the fall. but oh well, as she has repeatedly told me, it is not my patio. Then I sent an orientation email to the building manager with photos and videos of the sliding greenhouse with the rest of the board members on copy, where I explained in detail what I had done and how every step was in compliance with the rejection email I had received, which I of course included. I said the greenhouse was now to be considered a piece of mobile patio furniture, just like my sofa and chairs were, and that I now considered this subject to be a closed matter. I have not heard a single word from any of them. It's been over a week. I think I got her. I cannot imagine she will find a loophole that lets her legally dictate what patio furniture is allowed and not in the co-op, since the patios are stated to be for every apartment owner's private usage. So, when Christmas comes, I'm planning to decorate the greenhouse with lights, make it pretty, because every time Karen steps out of her front door, she has to face my patio where she is looking straight at my greenhouse. The least I can do is make it pretty for her, right? Some background edit: I'm a 39 female, I have lived here for 10 years without a single complaint. Karen is the new building manager. Being the Karen she is, which means highly narcissistic female, she is using my greenhouse as a way to establish her newfound authority. Make an example: I did not get her permission, so the greenhouse got to go. It's not about the holes, it was just the only argument she could use to get me to take it down, especially since I had argued hard that it needed to be fastened for stability. And I am going to take care of the holes. I will either fix the holes or change the new few damaged floorboards, and I told her this on the phone. The damage is no big deal either way, the greenhouse is my therapy, I suffer from PTSD. So keeping my therapy is kind of a big deal to me, not trying to get sympathy, just saying why I decided to fight her on this. Update: I don't know if Karen learned about her Reddit infamy and felt stupid, but today I got a new email from her. She is now letting me keep the greenhouse because it is now a mobile unit, no mention of the holes in the floor. But she was careful to remind me that any loose object that damages the co-op's property if the wind gets a hold of it is my financial responsibility. Well, I'm really not too worried about that. The straps are designed to hold 1.4 tons each, and I've got 3 of them. Plus, there is this amazing little thing called insurance. Now that I've got in writing that my greenhouse is approved by the board, I'm pretty sure I am covered on the off chance that the 6-ounce plastic window manages to break free from frames and straps and wreak havoc on the neighborhood. The next one is titled Awesome Malicious Compliance. I coordinate with contract workers to fix and maintain buildings and properties my company owns. Basically, an employee says, "Hey, this is broken," and I bring in the correct people to fix the problem. Safety is of the highest importance for my company. Because of this, people try to use and abuse this culture. There are many examples of this, but I will give you a more recent one. An older employee came to me and explained that his favorite parking spot, under a big shade tree, does not have a parking block, concrete block that your front tires hit. Today he was parking, drove way too far forward, and the front of his car went into the grass, about a 3-inch drop. He asked if I could get one put in. I told him, I don't see a problem with installing one. I don't know how long it will take, but I will work on it. Then he flashes a little grin and says kind of snarky, "I think it is a safety concern." He thinks by invoking that phrase, things will magically happen faster. I smile back at him and say, I agree, it's a safety concern, and because of that we are going to have to block off that area until it can be fixed. Realizing he just lost his favorite parking spot, he says, "Well, I don't think..." I cut him off and say, "No, we have to. You said it's a safety concern, and we cannot continue to use the spot if it is a safety concern." His smile changes to a "you got me" smile. Edit: when someone says those words, they force my hand. If I don't do something about the safety concern and they get hurt, I can lose my job. So when he said that, even if I didn't want to, I was not allowed to let him park there. Number 2, it was fixed in 2 weeks and he parks there every day. And ripe stars, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you still cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will soon show up in the left corner of the screen. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could not only subscribe to the channel, but also turn on the bell notifications, which you can do by clicking on the little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. This will help my channel tremendously, and this will make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. Furthermore, if you want to see additional ripe content that I don't post on YouTube, then I would suggest to head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive videos that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.